The exchange fund has chalked up its smallest gain in 5 quarters as the Middle East crisis rumbles on. Heads up for Hongkongers, brace yourselves for the annual green bomb. And the government mulls licensing pinball and claw machines and banning anyone in school uniform from internet cafes. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Evelyn Bai. Hong Kong's exchange fund, the reserve that underpins the city's US dollar peg, logged its weakest investment gain in 5 quarters, with the de facto central bank warning of a murky outlook amid the Middle East crisis. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority reported that the fund posted an investment income of $34.5 billion for the first 3 months of 2026. A 56% plunge from the $79.2 billion recorded a year earlier. Hong Kong equities and other equities logged losses of $5 billion and $11 billion, respectively. Bond gains mounted to $24.6 billion in the quarter, dropping 39.4%. Though the fund also recorded a positive currency translation effect of $25.9 billion on non-Hong Kong dollar assets. Noting a very difficult first quarter, HKMA Chief Executive Eddie Yu said the income was actually understandable given the military conflict in the Middle East, which had caused volatility in financial markets.
Because of that uncertain outlook, what the Fed has been doing is to pause, is to hold rates steady. They've been doing that for 4 times this year. Depending on where the military conflict is going and how that is going to affect oil prices, they may have to watch further how inflation, how prices change in the US before deciding their next move.
As for the investment outlook for the second quarter, Yu said there was huge uncertainty, making it hard to forecast performance. The authority will continue to implement appropriate defensive measures and maintain a high degree of liquidity. Breadwinners in the city will soon get hit by the dreaded green bomb starting today, as Inland Revenue has issued a total of 2.77 million individual tax returns across the city for the new tax filing season. Jeremy Zhu tells us more.
The tax authority expects the provisional total revenue for the 2025-26 assessment year to reach $458.3 billion, a significant increase of $83.8 billion, or a 22% rise compared to the previous tax year. Profits tax remains the largest contributor, accounting for nearly half of the total revenue at $212.6 billion, an increase of 20%. Salary tax followed suit, bringing in $97.7 billion, up 10% from last year. The most dramatic jump was seen in stamp duty revenue, which soared by 61% to reach $102.6 billion.
Last year, the number of property transactions has increased significantly, and also the price of properties has remained stable, and that's the reason why we have a very good increase in the stamp revenue arising from the property transactions. As for the stock transaction, I think very obvious because you know that the trading volumes at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange has increased significantly, more than 50%.
This year, 110,000 more residents will be bombed by their tax bills. Taxpayers are reminded to file their returns within 1 month. However, those choosing to file online via e-tax will receive an extension until July 4th. Separately, the government has rolled out a special tax waiver for owners and residents of fire-hit Wangfu Court to ease their financial burden. All tax payable for 2025-26 will be waived, combined with concessions announced late last year. Any remaining tax balance for 2024-25 will also be scrapped. The Inland Revenue Department will issue separate returns to those affected in the third quarter to assess provisional tax for 2026-27. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Claw machines and pinball game devices may have to be licensed under government proposals to regulate amusements with prices. Authorities are also considering potential age limits or banning overnight stays as part of a tighter regulation on cybercafes. Jamie Lee reports.
In recent years, claw machines and pinball games have sprung up across Hong Kong, drawing prize seekers eager to test their luck. The Home and Youth Affairs Bureau now says these devices may contain elements of chance and prizes and should be regulated under gambling laws. Under the proposals, law changes would allow licenses of amusements with prizes to be issued for individual machines in addition to organizations. Other suggestions include requiring the license notice to be placed in prominent locations and addiction warning labels on the game machines. The regulatory update may also include cybercafes, where officials say have turned into a place for playing online games than only for access to the internet. The first option is to require cybercafes to be licensed under the Amusement Game Centers Ordinance alongside arcades. This would effectively bar those wearing school uniforms to enter, prompting the cafe to set up a kids zone for those under 16 and an adult zone for those above. The second option is to reference regulations for esports venues, introducing waivers for cybercafes on the condition that they meet structure, fire safety, and ventilation-related requirements. This proposal does not involve age limits and could ban service accommodating overnight stays. Lawmakers are set to discuss these proposals next Monday. Authorities say they will launch a public consultation in a timely manner before moving on to the next step. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
A woman in her 60s has died after plunging from a high-rise hotel in Wan Chai, landing on a female hotel guest and injuring 4 others, police said on Monday. The incident happened at a hotel on Queen's Road East at around 9 a.m. The 69-year-old foreign national was pronounced dead at the scene. She was believed to have fallen from height, hitting a glass pane on a lower floor and landing inside the building, during which she crushed and injured a 74-year-old female guest. A mother and son from the mainland, along with 2 female guests aged 77 and 89, were lacerated by pieces of shattered glass as they tried to flee. All the injured were taken to hospital for treatment. Police are investigating the cause of the fall and have cordoned off part of the road outside the hotel. Britain is giving airlines more leeway this summer, letting them scrap or merge same-day flights weeks in advance to save fuel and avoid last-minute holiday chaos. Jeremy Zhu has more.
With Iran's war tightening global energy supplies, Heathrow and Gatwick operations have so far been unaffected. But the International Energy Agency has warned that Europe could face fuel shortages as early as June. The Department for Transport has hauled in British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, EasyJet, and the 2 London hub airports, agreeing on temporary rules that let carriers scrap lightly booked services at least 2 weeks ahead or consolidate multiple flights to the same destination instead of flying near-empty ghost flights just to protect valuable slots. Normally, airlines must use at least 80% of their allocated takeoff and landing slots to keep them the following year, a threshold that often encourages half-full planes to take to the skies. Under the relaxed regime, airlines can hand back unused slots this season without losing their long-term rights, cutting waste and smoothing schedules. At the same time, the government has ordered the country's 4 remaining refineries to ramp up jet fuel output and is exploring extra imports from the United States and West Africa to bolster supplies. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
The U.S. Navy has started to deploy destroyers and more than 100 aircraft to assist vessels trapped in the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Iran is reviewing Washington's response to its latest ceasefire proposal. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Fresh reports say another cargo ship has come under fire in the Strait of Hormuz. In his post, U.S. President Donald Trump said nations worldwide have asked for U.S. help to evacuate stranded vessels, most of which are neutral and uninvolved in the conflict. He announced the launch of Operation Project Freedom to guide ships to safety, calling it a humanitarian gesture. Trump warned that any interference with U.S. efforts would trigger a firm response. The International Chamber of Shipping estimates hundreds of vessels and more than 20,000 crew remain stuck in the strait. The mission involves missile destroyers, over 100 aircraft and drones, and 15,000 personnel, while the blockade continues. U.S. media, citing officials, stressed the operation is not an escort mission. Warships will remain on standby near the strait to deter attacks, while the Navy provides merchant ships with safe route information, including mine-free channels. Iranian lawmakers cautioned that any attempt by U.S. forces to alter the strait's management would be seen as a breach of the ceasefire. Meanwhile, talks brokered by Pakistan are ongoing. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed receipt of Washington's reply to its 14-point ceasefire plan, noting nuclear issues are not part of current negotiations. Trump said discussions with Tehran are progressing well and could yield positive results. Jeremy Chu, Cable News.
At least 3 people died and several others became sick on a cruise ship in the Atlantic Ocean after a suspected outbreak of hantavirus. The vessel is sitting on waters of West Africa with more than 100 passengers barred leaving for now. Jamie Liu has more details.
The ship involved is the MV Hondias, which left Argentina about 7 weeks ago with around 150 passengers. The suspected hantavirus infections emerged when it was traveling to Cape Verde, an island nation of West Africa. The cruise operator, Ocean-Wide Expeditions, described a serious medical situation on board. The World Health Organization later reported at least 1 confirmed case and 5 suspected ones. According to South Africa's Department of Health, the first person to fall ill was a 70-year-old man from the Netherlands. He died on arrival on the island of St. Helena, a British territory in the South Atlantic. His wife, aged 69, also became sick and was taken to South Africa, where she died in a Johannesburg hospital. The third person who died was also Dutch, whose body was still on the ship. Other sick passengers include a British man who has been put under intensive care in South Africa. Ocean-Wide Expedition said Cape Verde authorities were assisting but had not allowed anyone to disembark, including 2 sick individuals. The WHO said it is coordinating with member states and the ship operator to send the patients to a hospital, and an investigation into the infections is underway. Humans can be infected with hantavirus through contact with rodents, especially with their urine, droppings, and saliva. According to the WHO, human-to-human transmission is possible but rare. The virus can cause a severe and often deadly respiratory illness. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up 319 points. Top active stocks of the day. Tracker Fund was up 34 cents. Alibaba was up $5.70. CATL was up $23.50. SMIC was up $1.25. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar. Canadian dollar 5.75. Australian dollar 5.62. On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy with a few showers. Showers will become more frequent with isolated thunderstorms overnight. It will be slightly cooler tomorrow. Temperatures range between 21 and 24 degrees. Showers will gradually ease off later. That's our news tonight. I'm Evan Bai. Thank you for watching. Good night.